Hello, YouTube viewers, and welcome to my channel. What shame gang? Hello, YouTube followers. How are you guys doing today? I want to welcome all returning followers, new followers, whether you're coming directly from YouTube, whether you're coming from Facebook or TikTok. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, supporting, spreading the word, however you see fit. It has been a while. The last video that I made was 7 months ago. Probably going into the 8th month at this point, but I'm here now. So a lot has changed, a lot has transpired. I have actually been running from making a video. Making excuses. At one point I started the process of making a video, and then I stopped like mid video and I never posted it, never finished it. That wasn't nothing but the devil trying to discourage me because I was critiquing it and all these things. And yeah, so anyways, neither here nor there. I am here now. How are you guys doing? Glad to see that you're still alive, that you're breathing, and that you're in your right minds. So I ended my last video with a series of how God confirmed that he wanted me to move to Georgia. So I am here now continuing that series. And in my last video, I pretty much left off on pretty much talking about exactly where God led me to as far as the hotel name, as well as my son's school name. And so in my last video, I pretty much told you guys that God led me to a hotel by the name of Water Walk, which we know Peter walked on water in the Bible. And God appeared to them in the middle of the ocean, and pretty much they thought it was a ghost. And God told Peter to walk out on water in faith, and Peter did. And then he started doubting, and then he started sinking, and God came and saved him. It was just like, why did you start doubting me? You have little faith, and so forth, right? Boom. So God sent me to Sandy Springs, Georgia, also known as Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, Georgia. He ended up sending me to a hotel by the name of Water Walk in Sandy Springs, Georgia. And I stayed there from February 24th, 2025 up until July 15th of 2025. I would have to go back and check because I don't remember. Matter of fact, I'm about to look real quick. Give me 1 second. I'm going to keep talking so it won't just be like a pause, but I pretty much was in the hotel from the end of February to mid-July. And, yeah, God kept me, man. He kept me. Yeah, so, to be exact, I left July 14th was the last time that I stayed in this particular hotel. So, God kept me the whole way there. There was a lot that transpired when I was there. A lot of paths that I crossed. There was a couple of famous people that stayed in that hotel that I came into contact with, just like a little high and by. And God used me to speak into each employee that worked there. Like, I spoke into each and every one of their lives in some type of way, and I was always lifting up and magnifying God, and pretty much standing 10 toes down on the fact that I came to Georgia on a faith move, not in my own strength, not in my own desire, but because God told me to come here. And so My son was going to a school about 3 minutes away from the hotel. The name of that school was called High Point, which was the name of the complex and the name of the street that I moved from in Romeoville. So God strategically and divinely placed me in that neighborhood and ended up having me to enroll my son in the school by the name of the complex that we moved from. And so all of that was just divine, and just like how everything was just lining up, like nobody could tell me that it wasn't God. Like I knew it was God regardless, but that was just his little cherry on top to let me know, like, yeah, daughter, you in the right place. And so there have been times where I was behind on paying my room. And so I told y'all before that I was paying daily. She was the lady, the GM worked with me, and she allowed me to pay daily. And so there were some days where I didn't have it. And it came to times where I was behind for like a week. The most I was behind was maybe almost a week and a half, going on 2 weeks. And so at one point, God had the GM to plant this seed when I first got there in February about a church that would help this particular hotel. They would help guests or residents, because it was a hotel and an apartment complex all in one. They had a live and stay model. So there were people who had came to this particular church. It was a Catholic church, to receive help, to receive funds to pretty much pay past due rent, or if they was like behind on paying their room. It was really for the apartment side of it, the lease side of it, rather than the hotel side. But she pretty much, sowed the seed, gave me the information in case I needed it in the future. And so here we are, Mother's Day of 2025, Mother's Day weekend to be exact. I reached out to this particular shelter. I reached out to this particular church. And so it was crazy, because around the time that God told me to put my son in school, it literally lined everything up perfectly for me, because of my son being in that school. So I had to be in Georgia in general and in that specific area for at least 3 months to be able to receive assistance from this church. And I was not in that area for 3 months yet, but because I enrolled my son in school in that particular county, that gave that was the leverage that I had, that was able to give me assistance from this particular church. Excuse me. So they ended up calling me. I reached out. I had to leave a voicemail. They called me the same day. They was just like, hey, what's your situation? Where do you live? What the bam? So I told them it was a hotel. They said they normally don't fund hotels because this is not like a permanent thing. They may fund me and then I may move and go somewhere else. So they just like to make sure that the funds are being used for actual residents of the community, because these were people who were donating this money, and they wanted to go specifically to the neighborhood that they was donating it from. And so the guy ended up setting me an appointment up. And so again, this was the weekend before Mother's Day. So I want to say it was like May 4th, May 5th or whatever. So he set me up an appointment. And so my appointment was the day before Mother's Day, which was on a Saturday. And so, like I said, he told me that I had to be in the area for 3 months. But then when I told him that my son was actually in school in the county, he was just like, oh, well, that's good enough. We just need proof from the school that he is a student there and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, cool. So then, boom, when I went to the appointment, I pretty much had my hotel bill, how much I was paying daily and weekly at the hotel. And then the man pretty much told me that he can give me a pledge for $1,000. So he told me in advance, like, we're going to give you $1,000 towards your hotel room or whatever the case may be. At that time, I was not behind. But when I went, I was behind like by a day, because I didn't pay for that day yet. And so when I went and met with the church, it was just pretty much asking me, like, So do you work right now? Like, how long have you been in Georgia? What brought you here? So I'm telling them, like, God led me here. No, I'm not working. I'm doing Instacart. And they was just like trying to encourage me to work. Then they was telling me about all these different programs that I could look into, like shelters and things like that would give me housing and help me to pretty much learn how to budget and save and stuff like that. They was just pretty much trying to refer me to like different programs that I can go through that would pretty much set me up for success or whatever. So I pretty much was like, I respect the information and the references and things like that. I'm going to do whatever it is that God is leading me and calling me to do. I don't just want to just walk through any door because of the opportunity presenting itself. I want to make sure that my steps are ordered and that this is something that God wants me to do. I don't want to prolong the process as to what it is He's trying to do for me here in the state of Georgia. But I greatly appreciate the references, and I greatly appreciate y'all helping me to pretty much fund my room right now because I don't have the funds. And so I believe I told y'all this story in another video, but I'm not sure, but I'm just trying to sum it all up. And so, long story short, we ended up going down the rabbit hole with a conversation about same-sex marriage and things like that, because I had just came from a conference the day before called Pray America, and it was Pray America for Atlanta. But this particular church is stationed in Arizona, but they was going like all around the United States to different states or whatever and praying for the principalities and things like that over their particular city and state. And so I was just pretty much telling him about the power, the power of the Holy Spirit that was in the place, and how they was praying against the principalities of like homosexuality and things like that over Georgia. And he was just like, this is the how can I, this was the volunteer at the church, and he was just like, oh, you don't believe in same-sex marriage? I said, no, I do not, and neither does God. And he was just like, oh, really? Because a lot of our donators are married, are in same-sex marriages, and they're really nice people. And I said, I'm pretty sure they are nice people, and I'm not gonna sit up here and judge them or turn this conversation into that, but gotta be their judge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe in it though, and so he tried to go down the rabbit hole with that, and I nipped it in the bud very quickly. And so anyways, he kind of was just like asking me what was my plans moving forward. And like I said, I told him, whatever it is that God is calling me into and telling me to do, that's what I'm going to do. And I was just pretty much telling him that I believe that God is going to bless me with the house, and I'm not going to have to toil for it. I know that the world expects us to have certain qualifications and things like that to be able to qualify for things, but I don't believe that that's going to be my story. I do believe that God is going to move supernaturally and give me favor in a lot of areas, because that's what He do for His children, especially those that walk out of obedience, because a lot of people ain't doing that. Like, that's a whole nother walk. You know what I'm saying? When you're literally dying to yourself, like literally, and allowing God to hold your hand as your child allows you to hold their hand, and you're walking them through life, and they're just like 100% dependent on you, not really worried. Like, that's the type of time and journey that I have been on since I have been here in Georgia. Have I had moments where it was not such a great experience? Absolutely. I'm in a new season right now, and quite frankly, I feel like I'm going backwards. But it be like that sometimes. You can't lose the faith, man. You gotta stay grounded in it, because it's gonna come with some ups and downs sometimes until you get to that finish line. And even when you get to the finish line, like the tax, look, that saying, more money, more problems? The higher you get, the more darts that is gonna come your way from the enemy. That's just the way that it goes. Cause he mad. He don't want you to, he don't want you to reap the benefit of 100%, like being grounded in the Lord. Like, he wants you to stay in sin. He wants to continue to control your life, and for you to walk in disobedience. Like, the devil don't want none of us to 100% be saved. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to say you believe in God and you're saved, but you're not 100% walking the walk. Like, you still 1 foot in and 1 foot out, lukewarm as they call it. You know what I'm saying? It's either hot or cold with God. Ain't no in the middle. It's no in the middle with him. You can only be in the middle for so long before he throw you on the other side. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be grounded in it. If this is what you're going to do, you're going to have to stand 10 toes down in it. And stay consecrated and stay in prayer. Because that's the only way you're going to make it. Like, we fleshy, we human, we're weak. Like, we ain't got the strength of God. Our strength is through him. And without him, like, we're literally, we're nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're nothing. So, anyways, I ended up getting, so when I left this particular, Catholic church or whatever, they ended up giving me 1 week worth of funds, which was like $575. And it covered my room for like, a week. And so, after that, I'm like, okay, Lord, now what? So I'm still doing Instacart, but I'm still, like, my back is still up against the wall with the funds. Like, even though God was getting me through. Now, mind you, this was in May. Now, fast forward up until July, like around the end of June, it had got real, it got real fishy, right? And so it got to the point where I had to reach out to like family and friends. And I have a pride issue when it comes to asking for help. I don't like to ask people for help. Not only did I not want to ask for help, but I'm like, Lord, I done already went all on social media, boasted and spoke so highly about how you relocated me here and you gonna provide and out the bam. And now here I am asking for help. They're gonna mock me. Like, this is what I'm thinking to myself. Like, Lord, the mockery. They probably thinking in their head like, oh, I thought God sent you there. Why you struggling? Like, you know what I'm saying? Which I had a situation like that with my best friend's father. Like, he literally was just like, you sure God told you to come here? Because if he told you to come here, you wouldn't be experiencing X, Y, Z. And I'm just like, bro, this is why you don't tell everybody everything. This is why you keep certain things to yourself in certain seasons. Because if you're not grounded and if you don't have the confidence in knowing that this is God, a person would talk you right out your destiny because of their carnal mindset, right? And so, again, we coming to the end of June. I'm not able to maintain this room no more, okay? And so now I'm like, okay, now I gotta ask people for help to pay for the room. And like I said, it was killing my pride. I did not want to ask, but I did. And so when I asked these particular people, I was able to, you know, get my room balance paid at this particular time. I think my balance was like almost $400 some. I got that paid. I even had a little extra, and I was able to put money ahead towards my room. And so now we coming into July. And so my best friend and her father ended up coming to Georgia, right? And it was crazy because she ended up reaching out to me and she told me she was here. And so I was just like, I was trying to tell her to come, her and her dad, because they had something happened to where they had got a flat tire, something like that. Something happened with his truck to where he couldn't proceed to the next state because he carries heavy freight, and so oversized loads. And so they ended up having to stay in Georgia for like 2 days, longer than they expected. They were supposed to just like drive through here, stop for a little bit until the sun came back up, and then they was gonna hit the road. But they had to stay here for like 2 days because he had to order his part and then he had to put it on. And so I ended up pretty much telling them like, come meet me at my hotel, but they was like a little over an hour away from me. And so then they was just like, well, how about you just come to see us? And so I did. And so this was around the time when I was behind on my room. And so I was just like, okay, Lord, it's just a coincidence that my best friend is here. Mind you, I wasn't really in contact with my best friend during the beginning of my journey. Like, when I moved to Georgia, I started kind of getting back in contact with her, but we kind of had fell out a little bit because, as I told y'all in previous videos, I didn't feel like she was there for me as a friend. Like, and I don't think that she did that intentionally. I just think that she didn't really know how to be there. You know, I know she felt bad for my situation, but she just didn't really know the right things to say at that time. And so she just intentionally was not there. Like, I mean, not intentionally. She was not intentionally not trying to be there. It's what I'm trying to say. Like, it just, I don't know, like, I just felt like she knew I was kind of like going through it, and she didn't know how to really, she didn't really know the right things to say at that time, so she just kind of stayed clear of the fire, if that makes any sense. That's what I believe. You know what I'm saying? I really do feel like her heart was in the right place, but you know how it goes. And so anyways, they ended up coming here, and so I wasn't really in contact with her like that, so she really didn't know like what was going on in totality. And so I ended up going to meet them where they were. Like I said, it was a little over an hour away. I didn't have gas to get there, but I went with what I had enough to make it. And so her dad was just pretty much like, we'll give you some gas if you come out here, we'll give you gas to get back home, woo woo woo. I'm like, okay, cool. So I drove out there. And so me and my friend was kind of like sitting outside talking, you know, in a little seating area of the hotel. And that's when I kind of like got her up to date on everything that was going on or whatever like that. And so I had really felt in my heart because my friend dad was about to go to Florida. And I had never been to Florida before. And I'm like, man, I would love to hit the road with them if my room was paid up. I don't want to just leave knowing I got this balance. You know what I'm saying? So I had got this idea to pretty much come to her dad with a proposition, right? And so my friend was escorted for him. That's what you call it. So she was pretty much riding and protecting his load on the road in the pickup truck while he was in the semi doing the oversized trailing or toting the oversized load. And so I was just pretty much like, you know what? I'm gonna ask her daddy if I can go with them and drive the load to Florida and then drive back to Georgia, and then I get a wheel over to my friend and let her drive wherever they going, whether they going back to Illinois or whatever. And so that was my plan. And so I was just gonna ask him, like, listen, I would never ask you for no money. And I had done things for them in the past, like met them places back in Illinois, picked them up from truck stops, didn't charge them no gas, stuff like that. I don't mind doing stuff for people, and I don't ask them for nothing in return. That's just how I am. But I was just like really trying to figure out a way to pay this balance, because I didn't want to reach out to the people I reached out to previously and ask them for help again, because again, I'm dealing with this pride issue. And so we ended up going out to eat. And so that's when the topic kind of came up, like later on that day, because I ended up spending the night. But I pretty much was just like, man. So my friend was just pretty much like, she don't mind splitting it with me, splitting whatever she was going to get paid with me. But yeah, like to just ask him. And so when I asked him, he just kind of laughed at me and was like, well, how much is the room? And I said, my balance like $4 or something right now. What? It ain't even, and he just pretty much was like, it don't even cost that much. As far as the pay goes, it ain't even that much. So that'd be more than what I would actually pay. And woo, woo, woo. And I was just like, okay, that's cool, but like, I'm just asking, like, you know what I'm saying? Because I really need to come up on this money. I'm going to have to leave this hotel. And that's when he pretty much started like mocking the whole situation, was just like, you sure God told you to come here? Because if he did, you wouldn't be going through this and blah, 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 blah. And so I pretty much shut it down right there. And I said, you know what? No worries. I was just asking. I would have loved to roll with y'all to Florida, because I have not been there yet. But hey, listen, don't even worry about it. Because if we got to go through all of this, it ain't going to be from a pure place, and you can keep it. God is going to figure it out. He going to work it out for me as he had. I just thought to use this opportunity to see that if I, pretty much, if we could do like some type of business proposal, I didn't mind driving there and back. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was for the whole amount or just for them to pay. I just needed help to pay for my room balance. That's it. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of just left it at that. Now I ain't gonna lie, I got a little irritated about it because I didn't feel like my friend kind of like bagged me up on it, which is like, Dad, it's cool. Like you could just that's neither here nor there. Okay, so boom, that didn't work. I ended up going to visit, and after I visited them, spent the night, next morning I left, said my goodbyes, gave them a hug. And so my friend had called me when I was on my way back home. Mind you, I'm like an hour and 10 minutes away. And she was just like, don't you still need us to send you some gas? Because they knew I drove down there with no gas. I had pretty much, I think I had like a quarter tank of gas. And so their plan was to give me gas to get back home. And so she was just like, did you still need gas? And I was like, nah, don't worry about it. Because I was so irritated with the way that whole conversation played out, with him pretty much mocking if this was God, or you need to go back to Chicago, because if you going through all of this, you just need to go back home. I was just like, nah, I'm cool. He keep the gas. And she was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm positive. And so as I'm driving, I end up getting a notification, and he cashed after to me anyway, and I sent it back to him. And she was just like, that was from me, not him. And I said, it's cool. You can keep it. It's fine. And so when I got back, I pretty much was on E, but I ain't even care. Like I figured that thing out. And so when I went to go visit her, I had just went grocery shopping, right? I had just went grocery shopping because I was still getting my link or whatever from Illinois. So I had just went grocery shopping. And when I was out at their hotel, I heard God speak to me clear as day that my freezer was open. And so I'm like, my freezer is open. I'm like, no, it's not. It's closed. And so I heard it again. And again, I'm like, I don't know what this thought is or where it's coming from, but whatever, right? So when I ended up getting back to my hotel from spending the night at my friend and her dad's room, my freezer was open. My freezer was open. It was cracked. And all my food, because mind you, I had left at like 1 p.m. the previous day. And now it's like, it's probably like 2. So it's like 24 hours. That food was completely unthawed. All the food unthawed. And so when I walked in and I seen that the freezer was open, mind you, my room balance is almost in the 700s at this point. And when I seen that all my food had unthawed, I just was like, you told me that the freezer was open, Lord. You did. So now I'm even more irritated. But I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm probably finna get put out this room anyway, so I ain't gonna need the food. Where the food gonna go? I ain't got nowhere to put it. I probably shouldn't even went to buy the food in the first place, because I knew that God was telling me that the door was finna close on this hotel. But I was, again, holding on. So I got a garbage bag, and I threw all the food in the freezer in there. And I went and threw it in the garbage. And so I kind of like cried, shed a few tears, And I went to the grocery store to buy, because I needed to have food to eat. And so I went and bought a couple of more things. I didn't overdo it. But even when I bought those couple of things, I still did not feel peace about buying those things from the grocery store. So I came back in the room, and I put like these little garlic cheesy breads in the oven. And I ended up getting a phone call. In the time that the phone call came through, I ended up looking it up in a strong concordance, right? Because back in the biblical days, they used numbers and things like that in Hebrew, and in Greek. They use numbers, right, to define like words or whatever the case may be. And so it was this particular number, like I can't remember the time that they called. It was like 7 something, 7 p.m., 6 p.m. or something like that. But I recorded that time in my mind because I ended up getting a call from the front desk. And so I'm like, hello. And then the lady was, so mind you, I started sending out text messages at this point, asking people if they could help me with my room. And so at this particular time, I had came up with almost $400. Mind you, my balance was almost $700 and something. I came up to close to $400 and something. And so the lady called me from the front desk. She said, hey, just calling to see if you were going to be able to pay your balance, because if you're not able to pay the balance, you're going to have to check out tomorrow before noon. And I was just like, well, I got such and such amount of money right now. Can I just pay that and then, try to come up? And she was like, no, you would have to come up with the full balance before that time. And then you would have to pretty much pay for it if you want to continue to stay. And so mind you, the GM that I was telling y'all about in the previous video, who was pretty much a blessing to me the whole time I was there, she was on vacation. Not to mention, she was about to leave the company. So now all this time, so like boom, right? Remember I told y'all that when I checked in, I told her that I need to stay here until August 1st. And I didn't know why I said that date, but that date it has a significant meaning. That date was very significant, August 1st, right? And so around the beginning of July, things just started like falling apart, right? Boom, I started falling behind on the room. I couldn't really afford it no more. The GM that had been there and working with me the whole time, the manager, she ended up pretty much having a breakdown to me one day. I was just like, you know what? I need to find another job. They working me like a slave. I can't keep no employees. And then when the employees not working, they pretty much put all the time on me. I'm getting paid salary. So no matter what I put out, I'm going to get the same pay. And so she pretty much was fed up. And so she started looking for another job and she found it. And she was just like, yeah, I'm about to work for this new hotel. So it was the same type of concept, live and stay. It was a brand new branch that had never been here in Georgia before. They had started up in Tennessee, I want to say. And so they was building a first location here in Midtown. And so she was applying to be the general manager for that place. And so she ended up getting called for an interview. And she had like 4 interviews, mind you, from the beginning of July up until the point that I left. And so I pretty much was speaking life to her. And I was just like, hey, listen, it's yours. Like, you got to believe it. It's yours. Like, keep speaking it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Believe that God is going to open that door for you. Well, at the bam. And on top of this, I'm also encouraging her to get her relationship right with God. Because she was like a Muslim or whatever. She didn't dress it, but she was raised Muslim. And her boyfriend was Muslim, or husband or whatever. Her husband was Muslim. And so, I pretty much was encouraging her, like, to build her own relationship with God. And I was pretty much trying to shed light on who Christ was and all those things. And so I pretty much prayed with her and pretty much touched and agreed with her that she was going to get the job. And she ended up getting the job. And so, boom. So around this time that I was like in the 700s with my balance, she had went on a vacation. Well, it wasn't really a vacation. It was a company trip. So she went on this company trip, and when she was gone, she pretty much was telling me, like, your balance is pretty high. Try to make sure that you get the balance down while I'm gone, because I can't really vouch for you anymore, considering I technically don't work for this company no more. This is my last week. And after I come back from this company conference trip, that's going to be my last week. So my word holds no weight no more. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have to figure out this balance, because the person that's coming in behind me is a butthole. And I'm like, okay, cool, bet. So I had already knew that she was my grace. This GM was my grace at the hotel. I know God sent me there because she was there, and he knew that he was going to use her to give me grace in this particular place. And so Boom, she was going out of town. It was some girl who pretty much did audits and stuff overnight. She was working. And so when she called my phone, I went up to the front desk and I was just like, listen, I've been staying here since February. Vanessa was working. I said her name on accident, but B was working with me. And what do you suggest? If I come up with this balance before 12 p.m. tomorrow, do you suggest that I continue to try to stay here? And she was just like, I'm going to just be honest with you. You being able to pay daily, that's not something that we would normally do. And the people that's coming in after her, it's not going to go for that. They're going to want, if you're planning to stay for a week, they're going to want a week in advance. If you're planning to stay for a month, they want that month in advance, that's normally how hotels go. You pay up front. You know what I'm saying? You don't pay as you go. You pay up front with hotels. And so she was just like, so I suggest that you part ways because you're going to be in a situation to where you're going to have to leave regardless. And I was just like, okay, cool. So I asked her for some garbage bags because in my mind, okay, boom, I'm finna start packing everything up overnight. And so I ended up pretty much thanking her for giving me the suggestion. And then I went back to my room. So when I got back to my room, my son was asleep at this point. Or I told him to go to sleep rather. And so while he was sleeping, I started kind of like, packing stuff up. Because I still had the boxes and stuff that I came to the hotel with. So I taped the boxes up, started putting all the food from the cabinets in there. I started washing all my clothes. Because again, I had the energy front loader washer and dryer in my room. So I kind of started washing all my dirty clothes. I started taking everything out the drawers, everything out the closets, the totes and things that I had. I'm putting all my clothes in there. And so as I'm doing all of this, I'm just in my mind like, Lord, now what? And I was just so frustrated. I was irritated. But I was just like, Lord, I trust you still, even though this don't feel good in the moment. I don't know where I'm finna go from here, but I trust you. And so the money that I had came up with, I didn't put it towards the room. I held on to it. And so I started looking for storage units. And so I ended up finding a storage unit that was pretty cheap. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to go to this particular storage unit. I'm going to put my stuff in there. And if me and my baby have to sleep in the car, so be it. So now I'm looking, I'm thinking of ways that me and him could take showers. One way was to Planet Fitness because I had a membership. So I'm like, look, boom, we can go to Planet Fitness, take our showers there. If I got to go to a truck stop and pay, because, truckers, they can take showers at, the trucking gas stations. They got showers in there. You just pay, a couple of dollars to take a shower. I'm like, Lord, if I have to do that, then that's what I'm going to do. And I would just have to find somewhere for us to sleep safely in the car. But I was literally ready to sleep in the car, y'all. And take a shower at the gym. And live out my storage unit. That's literally the type of time I was on. And so, as I'm packing up and all this stuff, I just broke down crying, y'all. And I was just really crying my eyes out. And I was just like, Lord, I've been here for almost 6 months. And now this door is closing. What now? I had a little anger in me. Because I really didn't understand it. But there was places that God put in my path. For example, when I went to the Catholic Church to go get the assistance back in May of 2025, he used them to sow seeds and to give suggestions of places for me to look into. And out of pride, I'm like, I'm not looking into that. God ain't sent me here to move there. God ain't sent me here to go through that. And I just was closed-minded about some things. You know what I'm saying? Because I was expecting things to look a certain way and to go a certain way. And so I remember the time that the girl called me from the front desk telling me that I had to come up with a full balance. I looked that time up in the Strong Concordance and it meant to lodge overnight. I cannot make this up, y'all. It literally meant to lodge overnight. And I was just like, this is why it's important not to put God in the box, right? When I'm talking about numbers, I'm not talking about no angel numbers and none of that crap. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not into the new age. right? But I literally looked that number up. It's called Elijah.com or something like that. I looked it up on there, and that number, the time that the lady called me from the front desk telling me that I had to check out the next day if I didn't come up with the balance, that number meant to lodge overnight. What does lodge mean? To stay somewhere, to sleep. Well, where do you lodge at? Most times in a hotel. God was like, listen, stay here overnight. Tomorrow, we turn over a new leaf. Let it go. It's time to go. Mind you, the whole, your refrigerator, your freezer open, that was God trying to prepare me for when I got back to the room and realized that all that money that I spent, hundreds of dollars that I spent off my public assistance card, was going down the drain. Because literally everything unthawed. But God knew that if he didn't do that, if that didn't happen, I was not going to want to leave. I was going to try everything in my power to stay there until that food was ate up. Because I had just bought it. Even though I knew in my heart that God was telling me that it was time to leave, I still went out of disobedience and bought that food, went grocery shopping, knowing that it was time for me to leave that place. And I lost over close to $200 down the drain. But he had to set it up that way, because had that food not done that, I would have again tried everything in my power to come up with that money to stay there, to eat all that food up. So God knows, he be knowing what he be doing. He be knowing exactly what he be doing. And our disobedience cost us. That was so unnecessary to have to go through, but it's okay. He restored it. I got that money back 1,000 times. It's okay. I didn't go hungry, even though that food was wasted out. I still ate. I still was fed. And so I left the hotel the next day, said my goodbyes, hugged everybody, because like I said, I had good relationships with pretty much all the employees there. They were so sad for me, but it was what it was. And I pretty much was like, yeah, I'm gonna stay in touch. I'm gonna keep coming up here to see y'all, or out the band, whatever. Boom. And so when I left, some of the food, so remember I went to the store after the food that I threw away. After I threw away that food, I went to the store again and bought a couple of items. I ended up taking the stuff that was in the refrigerator that I did not open, and I gave it to one of the employees at the front desk. And I was like, listen, I didn't open this. I just don't want to throw it in the garbage. I have nowhere for it to go. So do you want it? And so she was like, oh my God, you don't have to do that. You can go return it to the store, get your money back. I'm like, no, like I'm trying to give it to you. And so I gave her the food. And so I hugged her, left. I asked her about the balance. Like, what should I do about the balance? What's going to happen moving forward? And she pretty much told me, like, normally, and I called the GM too and talked to her because I had a personal number. And I was just like, so what should I expect moving forward? And she was just like, well, normally, when you leave with a balance, we pretty much file a report on you, and then we will pretty much take you to court. Like, you'll go to court for it. And I was just like, really? And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, it's not that I'm trying to leave with a balance. She was like, yeah, I know it's out of my hands, but that's normally what happens. Like, when there's a balance, you're blocked from staying at the hotel moving forward. And we would take that balance up in court, especially depending on, you know, how big the balance is. And I was just like, oh, wow, interesting. And I was just like, well, you know, it's nothing I could do about it. It's out of my hands. I'm not going to worry about it. So she pretty much was just like, you know, I'll be praying for you, you know, keep in contact with me. Let me know if you find somewhere to stay tonight. Because mind you, this is after I'm leaving the hotel. So let me know if you find somewhere to stay tonight. And just, you know, keep in touch. You know, everything will work out for you. And I kind of like started crying again. You know what I'm saying? Because I was just like, Lord, like, this don't feel good. Like, I don't like this. Like, I want to go back home. And, you know, what the bam. And so when I left the hotel, I didn't know where I was going to stay. I had money. The money that I had asked the people for to try to to try to pay for the balance on my room. But I ended up buying the storage with some of that money, which that came out to like 80 some dollars. And then I had to buy some food because we didn't, we had to buy food on the go. And then God had placed it on my spirit to go look at my Marriott, my Bonvoy account. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Marriott.com, Bonvoy points. So I went to go look at that account, and I just so happened to have enough money or enough points to get a room. Like, I just had to add like a couple of probably like $20 to the points that I had already had. And then I was able to, get a room for the night. And so I went to this hotel. I went to the, what was it? The Marriott. They got different branches, but which one was it? It wasn't the Residence Inn. Fairfield. I think the Fairfield Marriott. I went to that one. It's the one where they don't include breakfast, the bougie one, when you got to buy your breakfast and stuff like that. So I went to that Marriott, and so when I got there, I checked in or whatever with my Bonvoy points, and I paid the difference. Mind y'all, I didn't have no money for real. And the guy ended up, at the front desk, ended up, like, changing a rate for me to where I didn't even have to come out of my pocket with much of anything. And then he gave me 2 gift cards to be able to get some food. Because, again, you got to pay for food at this hotel. They don't give breakfast, complimentary breakfast. So he ended up giving me 2 gift cards. And total, I think it was like $30 or something. $30 in gift cards. And so I was just like, thank you so much. And so took my baby to the pool, kind of relaxed, calm my brain down, because like I was just like all over the place. And so went in the room, read my Bible, kind of sat in God's presence, talked to him, cried. My son was asleep. I woke up the next day. I was praying, pretty much asking God for direction. And so I ended up going downstairs to get some breakfast, and I was able to use the coupon that the guy gave me, and I got like a really good breakfast. It was so good too. And I was able to get something for me and my baby because he gave me the gift card. And so after that, I checked out. And so from there, I went to the park. So it was this particular park that God had pretty much put in my path earlier on in my journey, where I met 2 sisters in Christ that led me to the church that I go to now. I went to that church. That was my little spot. Mind you, I had my pet turtle with me, right? This whole journey. So me, my baby, and the turtle just on this journey together. So boom, we leave the Marriott. We go to the park that I normally would go to. And I would just pretty much stay there all day. And so at this particular time, I'm getting hot, y'all. Tried to sit under the trees, but it ain't working. So I went to this particular park, and I was kind of just like sitting there, and like I said, I'm sitting there in God's presence. I'm listening to worship music, and I'm just waiting for him to speak to me, like, Lord, what now, right? And so then I ended up reaching out to my cousin, one of my little cousins. I don't know if she reached out to me first or whatever, but we ended up talking to each other. And so I was asking her, matter of fact, I asked her if she could help me pay on my room. So she ended up reaching out to me days later. It was just like, she didn't have much, but she had like a gift card, the virtual gift card that she could send me for Target or something like that. So long story short, the money that I had already had on top of what she sent me, I was able to get a room for the second day that I was pretty much out of this water walk place. So first I stayed in the Marriott the first night. The second day I went to the park after I checked out, and I was kind of chilling in the park, kind of like waiting on direction from God. And then this cousin sent me some money so that I can then be able to book a room for the second day that I was technically out without like a set place or a set roof over my head. And so I kind of was talking to her, and as I was talking to her, I went to go check my email to see if the virtual gift card that she sent me came through. And y'all, when I went to go check my email, I had an email from this particular hotel that I was staying in, the Water Walk. I had an email from them. And it was just like, thank you for staying with us. Please come back again. Now, mind you, how I was telling y'all how they was pretty much like, yeah, you won't be able to stay again. You'll be on the block list from staying at this hotel moving forward. And they'll take you to court for the balance. Remember all of that. I had an email pretty much saying, thank you for your stay, blah, blah. Mind you, this is like the next day. Thank you for your stay. Please come again. And so when I went and checked my balance, like when I went to check the email, it had the receipt, the checkout receipt. Y'all, my balance was at 0. And so I'm on the phone with my cousin still, but I'm like, hold on 1 second. So I'm scrolling up, and I looked and I seen where they put manual credits. They manually put credits for each day that I was behind, which then brought the balance down. It was actually a credit on there. It wasn't even 0. It was like a positive balance. And I just broke down crying in the park, y'all. Because God sent me to that place. I fell behind. And he put it on his account. He literally cleared me from that debt. He provided every step of the way. I was boo-hooing crying in that park. And I told my cousin, she was like, wow. And she was just like lost for words, because she don't believe in God like that. And I actually, God has been using me on my journey to encourage her and kind of like enlighten her on it. And so she had bought one of my sweaters at one point, to support me, even though she didn't like believe in God. And I was just like, you know, telling her about how they cleared my balance, and she was just like lost for words. She didn't know what to say. And so I went to go stay in, so I ended up finding another hotel in, I want to say, Alpharetta, Georgia. I found the hotel in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I didn't book it until I went there. And so when I went there, I pretty much told the lady my situation, told her that I was homeless. I was staying in another hotel for almost 6 months. Now I'm just trying to find something for the next couple of nights or whatever the case may be. And come to find out, the woman that was at the front desk, mind you, it's like 11 p.m. The lady that was at the front desk was also homeless. And she had a child. She didn't have her child with her at the moment, going through it with her. But she had a child also. And she was just like, well, I'm homeless too. And she was like, when I started working for this company, they allowed me to like stay in the rooms or whatever for free. And she was just like, I'm going to talk to my manager for you. Don't worry about it. You can go ahead and stay for tonight. But I'll talk to her about, you know, moving forward, if we could maybe, you know, try to get you another day. And so I ended up paying, you know, online through Expedia or somebody, so I can get like the little discount. And honey, that hotel had great ratings, but when I got in the rooms, I had to go through 4 rooms before I actually found a room. I even found the cockroach in one of the rooms. I was just like, Lord, who wrote these reviews? Because they is a bald-faced liar, right? But all things, good and bad, works together. Romans 8:28 has been my scripture, honey, for this last 6, 7, 8 months, okay? For the last year. That has been my scripture, because all things good and bad works together for those that love Christ Jesus. The foolish things, honey, listen, I went through about 4 rooms, and I was like, this hotel, who wrote these reviews? And the girl was just like, she was like, you know, she was like, we do have a new housekeeping manager, and normally, like, it is, like, really clean, like, but she been on vacation, so yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know who cleaned these rooms tonight, but I'll be sure to let the manager know when she gets here to talk to you in the morning. So I ended up finding the room that I had to settle with. And I put my baby on the let-out couch. Mind you, the let-out couch looked like... It looked like it was bed bug infested. I don't know what was going on. I was just like, Lord, I don't understand what this is. They have almost 5 stars. And I just did not understand who was writing the reviews. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to pray over this room. I'm going to pray over this bed, whatever. Boom. So I was so uncomfortable the whole night, y'all. I literally slept in the middle of the bed. On top of the cover. I couldn't even, like, not on top of the cover, but I pulled the cover back. And you know how they have, like, different comforters and stuff and folded up on the beds. Like, it was just, yeah. So I ended up getting, like, extra comforters from downstairs. And I, like, padded up the let-out couch really good. And then put sheets and stuff on top of it for my baby to sleep on it. But I did not want him nowhere near the mattress because that mattress was a mess. And so the next morning I went downstairs to go eat breakfast. Breakfast was terrible. But I ended up meeting the manager, right? And so I pretty much showed her the pictures from the hotel rooms that I had went through that previous night. And she was just like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I am the new manager. And since I've been here, things have improved. I have not been here though. So like, I'm sorry that I've been out sick. She's like, I'm sorry that, you had to experience that. She was like, I'm going to go ahead and refund your room. And so I was telling her about my situation, about how I was homeless or whatever. So she went in the system, y'all. She refunded my room, what I paid. And she told me that I could stay in that room. First of all, she was trying to switch the room. I said, listen, I stay in that room, but if you would just allow me to get some cleaning supplies, can I use y'all cleaning supplies to like really, really clean that room, the vacuum cleaner and everything? She said, absolutely. So this woman gave me the vacuum cleaner to the hotel. She gave me all type of sanitizing wipes, bleach, all of that. I also went to the Walmart to get my own stuff. And y'all, I cleaned that room top and bottom. She gave me new linen, new towels and all of that. And I said, baby, whoever come in here after me and do the housekeeping ain't gonna need to, baby, because I got in between all the nicks and crannies. It was so dusty. I said, I don't know how y'all was cleaning up this room and there's crumbs behind this nightstand. Please tell me how. But God used me to be a blessing for that particular room, because I cleaned that room top to bottom, okay? And so she ended up refunding me for what I paid, which I think I paid like it was 100 and something. It was something like 118, one something. And so she refunded that. And on top of that, she said, listen, she said, I understand that you homeless right now. You got your kid with you. She said, I'm going to block that room out for 2 additional days. And she was like, and I'll make sure that the housekeepers don't come in there. I just put the room out of order. She was like, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about nobody coming and knocking on the door. You're going to be fine for as long as I'm here. You can stay there for the next 2 nights. So y'all, this hotel that God put in my path that I went to, that the desk clerk, I guess is what you can call it, the front desk clerk at the hotel, she was homeless at the time, pretty much encouraged me to talk to the manager the next day, let her know my situation. The rooms was a mess, which also worked in my favor, right? And when I talked to the manager the next morning, she was very apologetic. She ended up refunding my money on top of giving me 2 extra days to stay there for free and block the room out. So I stayed in that hotel for 3 nights. Okay, 3 nights. And on top of that, the 2 sisters in Christ that God connected me to at the park back in June, they ended up sewing into me. My friend, one of them ended up sending me $150, I want to say. And I was able to use, that was part of the money that I used to get that hotel. And then my other friend sent me $100. Mind you, I ain't known these women more than a month, but God placed them in my life to be a staple in my journey, and they led me to the church that I am now serving for, and I will get into that in a later video. But yeah, so just to sum it all up, this is how I left the Waterwalk Hotel. And I kind of was dangling for a little minute. I was in 2 different hotels, the Marriott, and then I can't think of the name of the other hotel. What was it? It was like a Comfort Inn, I want to say. I was in a Comfort Inn for 3 days. Then after I left the Comfort Inn, I had went to go look at a house for rent, because I'm still believing God to give me an apartment or a house for rent with bed credit, no money. Like, I'm just like, Lord, you gonna do your big one. Somebody gonna sow into me and give me and my baby our place. This is my mindset at this time. And so I went to go look for a house, look at a house for rent in I can't remember. I think it was in Villa Rica. So I went out there, went to go see this house. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. Brand new construction, right? And so went to go look at the house, and I pretty much was just like, Lord, if you want me to apply in faith and use the little money that I have, that I'm kind of sitting on, that people had sent to me to pay for my hotel room, because mind you, I'm not in this hotel no more. If you want me to use this money to apply, then let me know that. And so the house ended up getting taken down like immediately. It was taken down like quick. And so I reached out to my cousin. No, I'm sorry. I'm going a little too far ahead. So rewind. Boom, I went to go look at this house in Villa Rica. After I was leaving Villa Rica, I didn't know where I was about to go at this point, because now I ain't got enough money to get no room, right? And I used the money that I had. I put gas in my car, headed out to go look at this house. Now me and my baby just sitting at the gas station in this Villa Rica place. This is like an hour away from Sandy Springs, which is where I was staying at initially. And so that's when I talked to the other sister in Christ, and she sent me the $100. But she was kind of encouraging me to reach out to like the couple of people that I knew here, to see if maybe I can go stay with them. And so, but she was pretty much encouraging me and uplifting me, and was just like, listen, it's gonna work out for you, don't worry, you ain't coming this far for nothing, whatever. Boom. So I put gas in my car, and as I'm on the phone with her, mind you, I'm tight already, I ain't got no money, we don't know where we finna stay. I ended up putting premium gas in my car, so like the 93. So you got 87, 89, 93. Man, I put 93 gas in my car, and it wasn't gonna do no harm to it, but it was like way more than the unleaded. And I was irritated, because I was like, Lord, how did I just actually do that? So now I'm trying to tell the guy, like, can you like reverse it so I can like get my, and so it was too late. So I ended up coming out my pocket with more than I needed to for gas. And I was just so irritated, but I was kind of discombobulated in that moment. And so then I ended up, I was on the phone with my sister in Christ. I drove back towards Sandy Springs. And so God had put it on my heart to drive back to the hotel that he removed me from. So he told me, after I left looking at that house in Villa Rica, he told me to go back to the Waterwalk. Mind you, I had left the Waterwalk 4 days ago. I stayed in the Marriott 1 night, and I stayed in the Comfort Inn 3 nights. So I have been gone for like 4 nights at this point. He had told me to go back to the Waterwalk. And I'm like, Lord, mind you, I had food. And I'm like, I need to warm this food up so me and my baby can eat this before we go to sleep or whatever. Because at this point, I'm thinking we finna sleep in the car. And I was okay, maybe you want me to go back towards Waterwalk because you want me to find the area to sleep outside over there, because I knew the area so well, because I was over there for almost 6 months. So as I'm driving back, I'm mentally preparing myself for me and my baby to sleep in the car on this night. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me go to the Waterwalk, see who working the shift, because mind you, it's like 9 o'clock at night. When I got back, it was 10. It's almost 10 something at this point. Because like I said, I'm an hour away. So I get back to the water walk. Now, mind you, it was this Venezuelan woman that I had met 2 weeks before I left the water walk. Right? And so I used to talk to her because she used to work the morning shift. And she was a sweet lady. And so I met her. And when I left, the day that I got put out the hotel, she ended up texting my phone. So when I left, you know, everybody was saying their goodbyes and said for me and all this other stuff. And so she was just like, she texted me. She said, hey, this is, I'm going to just make a name up. This is Kim. I heard that you had to leave. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I know that you was here for a long time. I know I just started working here, but like if you need anything, just let me know. So I ended up calling her and I was like, hey girl. She was like, hey, I'm so sorry for texting your phone. I said, you're good. You're fine. So she went and got my number out the system. She was like, everybody was so sad that you left. And it was a maintenance man that was working there. And he was Hispanic. He did not speak good English at all. And she was just like, yeah, I can't remember his name, but I'm going to just say Carlos. She was like, Carlos was asking about you, and he was asking me to ask you if you needed some money because he was sending you $150. So I'm like, oh, thank you. Tell Carlos I said thank you, but no thank you. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it, though. I appreciate y'all, you know, being concerned and all of that, but I'm going to be all right. And so, like, we kind of was just talking for a little minute, and she was just like, you know, if you need anything, just let me know. And so she kind of, like, ended it on that note because she was at work still, so she had to get off the phone. And so, mind you, this was the first day when I initially left. So this is before I went to go stay at the Marriott. So this was the same day that I checked out. So, wait. No, this was the next day. So I stayed at the Marriott the first day that I left. Next day I was at the park talking to my cousin. Remember, that's when I found out that the balance was cleared out. And so this was the next day after I left. And so when I went to go look at the house in Villa Rica, and God told me to go back to Water Walk, I left Villa Rica, drove an hour back to Sandy Springs, went to the hotel. The girl was on shift because she worked night shift. And so she would work from 3 p.m. she would work from 2 to 11 p.m. And so when I walked through the door, she was there, and she was like, hey, Tiara. So I, like, walked up to her, gave her a hug. She was like, oh, my God, I'm so glad to see that you and your son is doing good, da, da, da. And I was like, yeah. She was like, so what's going on? So did you find somewhere to stay? I said, well, I stayed in 2 different hotels since I left here. And I pretty much was just like, well, tonight will be my first night sleeping in the car. And she was like, oh, she was like, really? She was like, well, listen, if you need to take a shower or anything like that, she was like, you know my work shift. So tomorrow, she's like, come here tomorrow. I'll give you a key to the room. You can go ahead and take you a shower if you need to. She was like, I understand. She was like, I've been there. And she was like, but don't. She was like, if you need a shower, you have nowhere to go. She was like, just come here and I'll just give you a room. A key to the room to take a shower. And I'm like, you know what, that is so sweet, but I do not want you to jeopardize your job or whatever. And so I kind of like talked to her until her shift was over. And so her shift was over at 11 p.m. And so we both left together, and I was just like, okay, girl. So I gave her a hug. I said, all right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and find somewhere to sleep. So I kind of had ideas of where I can go. Like, it was a park in the area. It was like different places I could go and like just like pull over and just like sleep and feel comfortable and safe because of the area. And so I gave her a hug. Her husband came up there to pick her up. I spoke to him, spoke to her daughter. I got in the car. And so as I'm in the car, I'm backing up and I'm leaving. And she was pulling out as well. And so as I was pulling past her, she kind of like blew a horn. And I slammed on the brakes, and I was like, yeah. I said, what's going on? And she was just like, follow me. And I was like, follow you? And my baby and her daughter was like, yeah. Like, they were so excited, like, yeah, follow us. And so I'm like, Kwanzaa, I told my baby, like, chill out. Like, what you talking about? You don't even know them. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so she was just like, just follow me. So I followed her. And so we ended up driving like 12 minutes from the hotel, which was in this area called Peachtree Corners. And so we stopped at a gas station, a Quick Trip. And so we got out, and then that's when she pretty much was just like, listen, she was like, I understand. I remember when my family moved here from Florida, when we came from Venezuela, I think that's how you pronounce it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. When they came from that place, she said that when they came here to the United States, they was homeless. They had to sleep in their cars and stuff like that. And she was like, so she truly understands what it feels like to be homeless and have to sleep in the car. And I know where your next meal gonna come from. So she pretty much was just like, listen. She said, you need help, I need help. She was like, we're kind of new here. We just moved into our apartment. She was like, so like, I'll help you and you help us. She was just like, we got a 2-bedroom. My daughter does not sleep in her room. It's like a roommate style apartment. So like, you're on one side, we're on one side. You have your own bathroom. It's a door that separates that bathroom in that room from the entire house. She's like, so like, you can stay in there. And she's like, you can stay as long as you need to, if whether it's for a couple of months or years. She's like, you can stay there as long as you need to. She was like, I only asked that you pay like $600 for rent. And she was like, but yeah, she's like, you could just pay me $600. And she was like, but we could just help each other. And she's like, then you'll be able to go ahead and save and save up for your own place. And I'm like, wow. I said, well, that is so nice of you. I said, she's like, and so she was like, so yeah, we stopped here to get like some sodas and like some bread because we're going to make hot dogs. Do you eat hot dogs? I said, I'm not eating meat, because at this particular time I wasn't eating meat. Because when I was at the hotel, I had went vegetarian. And I was like, right now, no, I'm actually not eating meat. But thank you. Like I said, me and my son, we'll I'll figure out what we gonna eat or whatever. And so she was just like, okay, well, you're welcome to, join us and eat with us if you would like. And so she was like, but yeah, you can stay with us as long as you need to. I just don't want to see you and your son out on the street. And I just gave her a hug, and I was like, you know what? Thank you so much. I said, I'm going to take it to God and see what he wants me to do. But I would definitely take the opportunity to sleep there for the night, because God did tell me to come back to the water walk, and I would have never thought it was for this reason. I would have never thought that God was leading me to come back here so that you can sow the seed and allowing me to dwell in your home. So like, again, I cannot stress it enough, y'all. What seems foolish to us makes complete sense to God, because God knows what's waiting on the other side. We just have to walk in obedience and be obedient. I know it's hard, because we can't see it, and again, it don't make sense, and we questioning it. But listen, y'all, if God is telling you to do a thing, if you are walking in Christ and you walking in obedience, and God is telling you to do a thing, and you know that God is telling you to do this thing, seek him. Make sure you pray. Okay, make sure that you're hearing from God and do it. Because had I not done that, I would have not had nowhere to sleep for the night. Not only for the night, God allowed me to dwell in this woman's house from February 19th all the way up until July. I'll do it in her house from July 19th all the way up until July 28th. July 28th. So I was at her house for a little over a week and a half. I was there. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be there long term. I knew that God had me there for a pit stop because of what he was about to take me into next. And so I was so grateful for that opportunity. It was very uncomfortable because she was a stranger and they did not speak English. Her husband didn't speak English. So like, she spoke a little English, but it was kind of uncomfortable dwelling amongst people who was like a different nationality and they like speak different language around you. I was very uncomfortable with that because again, she was a stranger to me, but I trusted that God had me at the right place at the right time, and that he was going to keep me and cover me, and nothing shady was going to happen. And so the little money that I did have, I ended up using that money to buy food. And again, I wasn't eating meat at this time, but I went and bought like a bunch of chicken, bread, and all type of stuff for them, because they didn't have no food or furniture. All they had was a mattress in their room, and a bed in their daughter's room, and like her toys, and a TV in their room. And so I used the money that I had, and I went and bought cleaning supplies. I cleaned up that side of the house that I was staying on, the bathroom and all of that. I also continuously cleaned up their house for them. So like the common area, like the living room area, even though it wasn't nothing in there, I was always sweeping, wiping down the counters, washing any dishes that was in the sink. Like I said, I went grocery shopping, brought them a bunch of food. Me and my son didn't even have food. I just wanted to make sure that they had food, because I was just so grateful that she even opened her doors to me for me and my son to have somewhere to sleep. But for the most part, it was comfortable. It was definitely comfortable. We was in like a little twin size bed. I did see a little roach up in there. I did. But I asked God, cover my things. You know what I'm saying? Cover my things. It wasn't like a cockroach. It was an actual German roach. But I was still grateful. And then they kept the air on Antarctica, honey. It was freezing up in there every night. But I just started I just made sure that I kept on jogging pants and sweaters, and I slept like that because it was like freezing in there. But that was her husband. He liked the house to be cold, but it was freezing, honey. But I would say that I was comfortable. I was comfortable there, and not comfortable in the sense of, it was conducive to live in. Like it was good. But of course I'm not gonna be comfortable because I don't know them. But as far as sleeping goes, I was good. And I would get up at certain times, read my Bible or pray, and things like that. And so yeah, so God had me there for literally about 10 days. And then I moved on to the next place. And so how that door closed, because I'm going to wrap this video up now, and I'm going to come with the next part. I think this is part 5. I'll come with part 6 after this. But the door pretty much closed because I kept praying and saying, and this has been my prayer this entire journey. Lord, if this is not of you, or if it's time for me to walk away from this particular season, or if it's time for this door to close, Father God, close the door. Force the door closed. Like, when it comes to me, God got to slam the door on my fingers, like smash them and cut half my fingers off tight. Because I will hold on or stay in a season longer than I should, right? And so I pretty much was just like, Lord, whenever you're ready for this door to close, force it close and make it clear that it's you. And so he did just that. And so this was around the time that over there in Venezuela, or however you pronounce it, they was going through the presidency change. And they was having riots over there because they didn't want this particular president that was president at the time to still be president. They wanted this other person to take the position, because the things that the guy had in store was not going to be conducive for the people, and they wanted him out. And so the lady that I was staying with, Kim, that ain't her name, but Kim came to me one day, and she was just like, because I thought I was going to be there to spend my birthday, because my birthday is July 30th. Mind you, today is July 1st. So I'm starting this month off being obedient, because I've been running from making videos, and I'm about to get back to making them, because that's what God is calling me to do, is to tell my story and to encourage other people that's going through the same thing, to not second guess what God is calling you into, right? And so she ended up calling me. I was at the park, and she was just like, hey, she was like, call me. She's like, call me. I need to talk to you when I get home, or something like that. I said, oh, I'm going to come to you. So I was out already. I had went to her job, the hotel that I was, the Water Walk. I went up there. And so I was like, what's going on? She was just like, hey, so I thought that I was going to be able to let you stay as long as you needed to, but now my husband, his family has to come here for Venezuela because they're trying to run because the president that they didn't want to get selected has been selected, and it's crazy there. Like, it's riots all over the place, people dying. And so she was just like, they're gonna come, his family is coming here, his cousins is coming here. And she was like, so they're gonna need to stay in the room that you're in. And she was like, so I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to leave. And I was like, listen, I said, it is what it is. I appreciate you allowing me to stay there thus far. You have truly been a blessing to me. I wasn't able to pay her anything yet because I hadn't really made no money in the time that I was there to really make a difference. But I was just like, listen, when I come across some money, I'm gonna look out for you. Like, I'm gonna still give you $150 because technically that would have been a week worth of me staying there, right? Because it would have been $600 a month. And I was like, I'm still gonna throw you like $150 or something like that. And so she was like, oh, I appreciate it, but it's fine. I know you weren't there long. You did enough, thank you for the food, blah, blah, blah. And so I went back, and so I asked her, when did she think that they were going to be coming? Because mind you, she told me this on, I want to say, a Friday. So this was probably like July 27th or something like that. And so she said, they got to get their plane tickets and stuff like that, so maybe sometime next week. And I said, so you think I'll still be here for my birthday? Because we had plans to get a cake and sing happy birthday or whatever with just me, my son, her husband, her daughter, and her. It was just going to be the 5 of us. And so she was like, yeah, I think they're going to come after that, and blah, blah, blah. So then, boom. I ended up going back to the house. I never was there all day. Like, I would wake up early in the morning, leave, don't come back until nighttime, until she got off of work, because I didn't want to be sitting around the house with her husband there, because I don't do that, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable while she's at work thinking I'm there and he's there. So I would leave all day and then come back. I may bop in and out throughout, because they gave me a key. I may bop in and out throughout the day, but for the most part, I wouldn't be there until she got off of work. And another thing, they used to leave their door unlocked all day. I didn't like that. They used to leave their door unlocked. And I'm like, my stuff isn't here. Like, So that was another thing that I wasn't really comfortable with. But again, I'm grateful that God used her to give me somewhere to stay for those 10 days. I'm very grateful for that. But it was some things that I was just like, oh, I don't know about that. But I prayed over my stuff and God kept me and kept it. And so I went to church one Sunday after she pretty much told me about the change that was coming with, me having to leave and her husband's family coming. I was at church, and when I left church, me and my son was out to eat at this restaurant. And she texted me, and she said, hey, so they'll be coming into town tonight, so you'll have to leave today. And this was on the 29th. And I was like, I bet. And so I left church. I said, I'm at church. I'll be back there to pack my stuff up. And so I left church, went back to her house. I cleaned up. I cleaned up the bathroom. I cleaned up the whole area, the room, swept, all of that. Any food I had in the refrigerator that I wasn't taking with me, because of course I didn't have no refrigerator to take it to. I didn't know where I was finna go from here. I ended up pretty much throwing that stuff away or letting them keep it. And then I took my stuff, packed my car up, gave her a hug, thanked her, gave her daughter a hug, thanked her husband, and I just pretty much told her to keep in touch with me. And so I left, and that was that. And so God put it on my heart to reach out to a particular family member that I have here, and I did that. And I went to her house for about 2 or 3 days, celebrated my birthday over there. Had this particular dream on my birthday, which I'm not going to get into that because it has significant meaning to me and what God is doing on and in this journey. And I will get into that later after it comes to pass. But yeah, so that is what happened in the transition from me moving to Georgia. God divinely connecting me to that hotel, the water walk, and then me leaving. And so on my next video, I will go into the season that God took me through after I left the hotel, after I left the Villa Swagan woman's house, went to my cousin's house, and so forth. Okay. So, this was lengthy. Sorry in advance. I was all over the place. Grammar wasn't so great. Kind of ghetto. But look, I'm getting back into it. Trying to stay consistent. Give me grace, y'all. I pray that this blesses someone. I pray that this encourages someone. I don't have any scripture to tie to it other than Romans 8:28. All things work together, good and bad, for those that love Christ Jesus. Steadfast. Endure to the end. I know that it's not easy, but persevere. You can do it. God got you. And just look at the light at the end of the tunnel, y'all. Oh, and I want to say this. I should have said this in the beginning, but I'm going to save it. Never mind. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for the next video, because that next video should sum up the season, because I don't want this to be too long, y'all. But anyways, I pray that this blesses someone. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you feel led to do so. I'm just here to encourage you, okay, and share my story. You know, I know that I'm connected to a certain group of people. My story is not for everybody, but it's for who it is for, okay? And God will use me to minister to those who needs to be connected to me during this journey and in theirs. So, God bless y'all, and I will see y'all in the next video.